My name is Prakash Narayan. I have been a civil servant in the past, mainly joining the Indian Railways. Then I went into several other ministries at various levels, Joint Secretary, then Secretary, and so on. And then came back to the Railways as chairman. And before that and after that, I've been involved in the humanist movement. And the Indian Humanist Movement, which was founded in 1960, I was one of the original members, founding members. Then we continued. I remained chairman of the IHU also for about 15 years. And after that, soon after that, I should say that the IHU, the International Humanist and Ethical Union, they constituted a policy commission, and they asked me to become a member of that, and I am now a member of the policy commission of the IHU. Thank you. Anybody else wants to say anything? No. Friends, welcome to this presentation and discussion on an interesting and complex subject. Most non-vegetarians, at some part of their adult life, and some, or in fact many even before that as children, go over a period of sufficient, a great deal of anxiety over the ethics of eating animal food. Some, of course, do not do that, mainly due to various family traditions and so on. But out of those who do, most are able to get over the ethical dilemmas on various counts. For example, geographical factors. The question is, what should the Eskimos eat? There is no option for them. So how can it be considered ethically wrong to be a non-vegetarian? The argument coming down from J.C. Bose onwards that plants also feel pain. If that is so, where is the ethical difference between vegetarianism and non-vegetarianism? Then health factors. They are important for human survival. For example, the protein need. There is also the general question of the survival of the selfish gene, which is part of nature itself. But most are not strongly convinced of these. I am one of them. Philosophical health or practical problems. And I believe I felt that their option or our option has been finally determined by a subconscious compulsive weakness for the non-vegetarian palate or taste bud. We just don't have the courage or the spirit of sacrifice for ethical reasons to give up the taste of non-vegetarian food. This is, many times it is called lack of courage, and I borrow a phrase from my brother Veer. The phrase of course exists, but I didn't know about it. This is a phenomenon of akrasia. There's a Greek word in which when somebody knows that what he is doing is wrong, but he doesn't have the courage to give it up, that phenomenon is called akrasia. And many of us, at least, continue to be non-vegetarians despite strong grounds because of the phenomenon of akrasia. Or maybe these justifications are partly true, or maybe their logic is not quite tenable. Maybe the practical problems are real, or maybe they have been or can be overcome by dietary and technology. Now they are producing vegetarian food non-vegetarian, which tastes just like non-vegetarian. If technology can be used for that, why not? I'm sure our bright young speaker today will throw light on all these, and we look forward to his presentation. And there's one more thing, let me add, that during discussions with Anil, in connection with this talk, Anil also mentioned that what may be called the spiritual factor. As we all know, this is difficult to define, but is used not only by religious people, but also by many of the major non-belief or humanist thinkers and movements. Thinkers like Julian Huxley, Eamon Roy, Narsingh Narayan, perhaps in a slightly different but not completely dissimilar senses. Perhaps it refers to values or perceptions beyond ethics, morality, and compassion. Something to the effect that each time you kill another living being, you lose something of yourself. Something to do perhaps with John Dewey's and Carl Sagan's reference to uncertainty, wonder, and beauty of our universe. Something what Narsingh Narayan called the religion of wholeness, where we are linked not only within the human species, but beyond that to life and nature and all that exists therein. Anil had wondered whether it would be all right for him to refer to the spiritual factor in a gathering consisting mainly of agnostics, atheists, rationalists, and humanists. I told him we would certainly look forward to the reflecting on this angle also. To Anil Narang.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just a minute, one minute. As a few words on introduction from Anil Narang, I think is customary, it should be done. Anil Narang is a senior fund manager in USA, based at New Jersey. He has a Bachelor of Science degree from the University of Rochester and an MBA from the University of Chicago. Anil has worked at prominent global financial and institutions including Morgan Stanley, where he was executive director. He was also co-chief executive of a Solomon Brothers subsidiary in New York City. Anil is presently the fund manager of the equity fund Sustainable Growth Partners and is on the investment committee and the board of the offshore entity of Enam Asset Management. He has served on numerous industry panels in India, including the Bombay Stock Exchange Index Committee. Anil has been deeply influenced by Mahatma Gandhi. His real passion, however, is promoting a vegan lifestyle, which includes giving presentations such as this one. He is also looking into making a larger variety of vegan foods readily and via manufacturing. Let us give a hand to Anil Narang.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, I must thank Destiny. Actually, my good friend Pradeep Narayan, who is here, I was asking him who could be chair, and he modestly suggested his father, and he has turned out to be invaluable not only in some of the very important administrative factors, but giving some very good insight and guidance into structuring this whole presentation. I think, in fact, it's his words, which is at the beginning of page 2, which is very interestingly, a lot of us know about vegetarianism in the context of animal suffering or health or even environment, but when it comes to relating it to world peace, while some understand it, there's often a blank. So I've started by focusing on that. I have given presentation in similar conferences, but this I think is the most interesting diverse group, because previously it were to more vegetarian conferences, and here I'm going to have good challenging questions which may be hard to answer.
No, not hard to answer, I'm sure.
So the main thesis of my presentation is that vegetarianism can be linked to compassion and peace. And the reason I have picked Einstein at the beginning is that he had a very unique way of connecting with the universe at a deeply harmonious level. His choice of words, you will see, especially on the next page, even invokes the concept of time and space. His equation E is equal to mc squares was not only simple, elegant, and harmonious, but even like music, he said he felt there was a deep harmony in universe, and Mozart, who he liked, brought it all out. He interestingly became a vegetarian towards the end of his life, and even when he was non-vegetarian, he was not comfortable at all. So his equation, which is the foundation for the nuclear bomb, he felt would ultimately lead human beings to self-destroy if we don't evolve to vegetarianism, because the same mindset that kills an animal is more prone to a violence tendencies and have war. So he uses the word survival of life here. On the next page, only he is uniquely entitled to bring in the concepts of time and space, where they may be, according to him, just projections of the mind, but he feels that they should not be separating factors. So we have to involve our compassions and thoughts and feelings with all living creatures. You can see, actually, the second paragraph here already addresses a little bit of the question our chair posed, which I address more deeply at the end, as to how to deal with extreme situations. You'll see in the end he says, nobody is able to do this completely, but the striving for such achievement is in itself a part of liberation and foundation for inner security. So his choice of words really impressed me. And the other reason I've chosen Einstein is he was born on, he passed away on April 18th, exactly 2 years before I was born, and it takes a soul to 2 years to find a new body, so obviously it's reincarnation. But now going back to a serious level, there are of course many other ways of saying the same thing. Mahatma Gandhi, he has said the most violent weapon on earth is the table fork. Our Mahabharata also linked it to the impact on human body and mind. Albert Schweitzer, in his Nobel Peace Prize speech, very distinctly said we should not limit our compassion to just human beings. That's on the bottom of page 6. On page 7, Leonardo da Vinci, in the late 1400s in Italy, he was a vegetarian. He was far ahead of his times in many ways, the complete Renaissance man, and he equated animal slaughter to the murder of humans. Rabindranath Tagore, the Nobel Prize winner of literature, he, in his own very good choice of words, and he became a vegetarian too, said that our protests against cruelty, even when we are non-vegetarians, are clearly heard. And it is ironic, basically, he says that if the pity is aroused, and anyone who doesn't join us in being dubbed a crank, we simply throttle our feelings and insult that's all is good to us. In fact, here's the point, even many non-vegetarians I meet, they don't have meat and alcohol on Tuesdays. So there is that hope, as I see it, in everybody. I had come across a joke where this Christian missionary goes to Africa, meets some cannibals, and encourage them not to eat humans. And after lot of negotiations, they reach an agreement: no babies on Fridays. On page 8, our first president, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, at that time, a hydrogen bomb had just come on, and he said that the only means of escaping it is to cultivate respect for life in all forms, under all conditions. It is only another name for vegetarianism. Gurudev Chitrabhanu, he is the spiritual heads of Jains in the US, spends half the time in Bombay. He's 90 plus, still travels around, very fit physically, mentally, spiritually, and he talks about compassion to animals is really compassion to oneself at the end of the day. It's not just about peace and war, by the way. We fatten the animals to kill them and we become fat. We eat them and we eat their cholesterol. Cholesterol is in all animal products, meat, fish, eggs, and dairy products. It is not in any plant products, not even avocados and nuts, to the surprise of many. Vegetarianism, I think, can also be linked to, I would say, a deepening of democracy. If you go back in history, and why I'm hopeful, is 5 of the first 6 US presidents had slaves, so it was very accepted. Anybody who didn't have a slave was dubbed a crank. Women could not vote in India and US until just a few decades back. So extension to animals, compassion, or giving them some rights is just an extension of that. The other way to look at it is, if somebody may say, I just want to look after myself, next step is only my family, next step is only my country, then only my religion, okay, then let's just limit it to human beings. So I see the animal world as just an extension of that. I would also encourage policymakers in governments and private organizations to promote vegetarianism to enhance peace products. Now this may sound a little bit different, but Einstein, I like to quote him here, he has a famous quote, "No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it." So when we have wars with our neighboring countries, we focus on history, our interpretation of it, on negotiation of borderlines, arms control, some economic sanctions or other means. Hey, how about promoting general peace and kindness? Maybe it'll impact them. The most fundamental duty of a government, I believe, is to provide security, especially to those who can least do it for themselves. And I think animals are part of that. And Mahatma Gandhi has also said the greatness of a nation and its moral progress may be seen by the way its animals are treated. India, I think, is like the only predominantly vegetarian country. And even though in the modern cities people are becoming more non-vegetarian, I think there is still a lot of scope for further developing it here. Terrorism linked with violence to animals. Here again, I would draw the concept of Einstein. We tend to focus on just very direct solutions. We have to think beyond the same level of consciousness that created it. Many of the terrorists, they have had very, in the childhood, they had done very cool acts like poking the eye of a cat with a needle. The only live terrorist caught in India from the November 26 attacks, his family was from butcher origin. So I think what happens is the disconnection starts with practice at meals and it just extends. Vegetarianism is not an end in itself. I think I like to use the words which I've read elsewhere to treat humans and non-human animals. We are also animals, we just happen to be labeled humans. Now, a question that comes up, which has taken me time to evolve, is people say, oh, you mean we are evil? And I say, no, well, by the way, I was a non-vegetarian since till 1988. Then I became vegetarian and a vegan in 2001. And different people are good in different things. There are a lot of traits non-vegetarians have which vegetarians don't have. So it's not being superior or inferior. That's absolutely wrong way to look at it. I would just say is vegetarian is a better way of life in every possible respect. The other very interesting thing I like to point out is at one vegetarian conference, the keynote speaker was one Dr. Hegde. He won the Padma Bhushan. And he cited Hans Peter Durr, D-U-R-R. You may want to Google him if you're interested. He wrote a paper, Matter is Not Made of Matter. And there's he involves quantum physics and the universe. And basically what he says is, people argue about whether circle is red or blue, and there are wars over it. Circle is neither red or blue, it's just a concept. So forget our opinions, like mine, on vegetarianism. Even so-called hard physics is very vague, nebulous. People don't know what really exists. Matter is not matter. There's actually magic going on in the universe in quantum physics. There may be infinite universes, and Hans-Peter Dürr thinks there may be infinite dimensions. We only know of 3, Einstein extended it to 4. So what he was trying to say there in that presentation, Dr. Hegde, was vegetarians should not take a black and white view that we are right, others are wrong. You have to allow for different perceptions of reality. Nobody is ultimately right or wrong, but you can just be kind in your own way. As far as I'm concerned, I draw a very simple, rational concept, which is I don't want to hurt somebody the same way I wouldn't like to be hurt. So it's just a matter of being kind. Mahatma Gandhi has also said that many a man eating meat but living in fear of God is nearer his freedom than a man religiously abstaining from meat but blaspheming God in every one of his acts. Yes, the subject is complex, as you said, but that's the way I've come out. Vegetarian food is very beneficial ecologically and economically. I could give a whole presentation on the environment side, separate hour or two, on the health side, hour or two, but I'll just spend briefly on it. But many wars are due to economic reasons, and food, hunger, water supply, land usage, transportation, etc. And the raising of animals for food, and including milk, consumes a vast multiple of resources than vegan food. A simple analogy is non-veg is like a gas guzzler. A vegetarian is like a efficient car, fuel-efficient car, and a vegan is like a bicycle. Many epidemics can also be prevented. In fact, just a few days back, there was an article in Times of India quoting Rajendra Pachauri about how wars may increase due to environmental damage. Bill Gates has said that veganism might be the way forward, and he involved the concepts of technology, economics, and ecology too. There's another case I came across, which is actually not in my presentation, which is that there is an aesthetic case. Ramachandra Guhan, the well-known author, has written a brilliant article on this, where he felt that he became a vegetarian from non-vegetarian, that by eating meat, your tongue gets coarse. You don't get to enjoy some of the extraordinary Indian cookings, whether it's dhokla or appam, some of it you had at my vegan snacks. And he made the point that, in fact, the case for aesthetics may be even stronger than a moral one. It was interesting, and he said vegetarianism actually can be a lot more fun than being a non-vegetarian. So this is a different angle. Einstein actually also said that the aesthetic case is compelling, and he was but talking more from a visual and feeling good point of view. Okay, what about extreme situations? People say, well, we kill germs and microbes, so why not eat animals, or other things like plants have one sense. The way I would answer it is, firstly, I don't have all the answer in extreme situations. I do not know what I would do, but I have tried my best and so far succeeded. And I would refer you back to the Einstein quote where he said, you cannot do it to its limit, but you must try it. But the very simple analogy I'll say is, whether on November 26th or in a war, we end up killing other humans, whether justified or not, that's a separate topic. Mahatma Gandhi actually said war is just civilized mass murder. But still, it's more accepted than killing your neighbor. So one can't say, well, if you have to kill humans in a war, it's okay to kill your neighbors. So the concept of saying we can kill four-legged animals with all the five senses we have just because germs and microbes are killed, or plants with one sense is very, very vast and extreme. There's a whole range of shades of gray. You can draw your own line, but I see a lot of scope for your own intelligent assessment there. In fact, Mahatma Gandhi in his ashrams, there were some snakes, and he cited that he was fortunate that none of the snakes bit his ashramites. There were one or two occasions where, despite the best efforts, they had to be killed. But so he voluntarily brings it out. That was one of his beauties. But that didn't mean that he would become a non-vegetarian. At the end of the day, you know, whether it's even on the health side, you will find out. While I'm 100% convinced, from my side at least, it's much better. But there are people who live to be healthy and non-vegetarian. At the end of the day, just you know, my basis is also moral at the end of the day. And Gandhi even said he would prefer death than take medicines with animal products in it. And of course, the other argument is brought is in nature, some animal kill other animals. But I think here again, I think we, as to quote Gandhi, we are in copying the lower animal world. Some insects are cannibals. They eat their mates, they eat their siblings, so do some animals. But we don't do that. So we don't have to follow this. Yeah.
Yeah. In the first paragraph, it is written like, I did not take beef, tea, or mutton even on medical advice. So your tea word tea, how it is linked with
Beef tea.
beef?
We having cows extracts.
Beef tea.
में beef पड़ा हुआ है.
Okay. Beef tea. Okay.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
not beef comma tea. It is
Right.
beef tea.
No. It's not beef or tea.
Beef is an adjective word.
Right. In fact, I will expand now that the chair has given me more encouragement on the spiritual protective shield. I'll cite two examples. One is Gandhi's eldest son became severely ill, and I think the doctor said unless he has chicken soup or something, he will perish. He was 14, and luckily he said he and the son and his wife were in unison in this. No, we will not have it no matter what. And fortunately, the boy healed and turned out to be the healthiest of his children. And in his autobiography, he says that whether you call it luck, chance, destiny, or God, something helped him, and life is ultimately not in the doctor's hand. At a much more mundane personal level, I have not taken any medicines in 12 years, luckily for health reasons, but if there's animal product, I also don't take it. And once I had some ache due to heavy computer use 10 years back, and after a year and a half, despite all effort, didn't go away. So one doctor said I have to take Vioxx, otherwise it won't break. So I called the manufacturer, found out it has pig in it. So I didn't take it. The doctor just looked with bewildered eyes and said there's no replacement. Somehow, I don't know how, but in just 2-3 days, the pain went away. And 4 or 5 years later, there were headline stories that Vioxx was linked to heart attacks. So anyway, I'd let you draw your own conclusion. Now, at the time Einstein talked about vegetarian global peace, the vegan concept was not there as such. So I'd like to now further extend the talk I'm giving to include the word vegan. That also means no animal product, including milk, including use of leather. Unfortunately, unlike the days of our rishis and munis, when the cows and the calf were treated very well, in this modern day and age, 100% in the West and much more than 99% in India, there's a lot of cruelty involved, even in the milk manufacture. In fact, people for ethical treatment of animals suggested I show a 60-second video. It is very brutal, and I chose to not show it for now. But that's what really happens. And but more importantly, you will see in the next page that, and this is an important slide. Now this is where I'll spend a little bit of time. I think it is extraordinarily good for health. My dramatic improvement in health came when I became vegetarian to vegan, not so much non-veg to veg, at least on the surface of it. Now, veganism is actually very natural, by the way. All vegetarian animals are vegan. No animal has milk after weaning years. It is designed to triple your weight when you're born, and when your teeth come out, your mother stops making milk, roughly at age 2+. And we end up having of cows and buffaloes, which is designed to triple their weight, which has a lot more fat and protein. Even the cow doesn't have milk, its calf does. Our body is very much like a vegetarian animal. Our intestine length is 12 to 14 times the body length because it needs to digest vegetarian food slowly. Non-veg animals have 1 to 2 times intestine lengths because the meat they consume should come out quickly, otherwise it rots and causes cancer of the colon, which is common in the West. I'll go into some more things, but I want to point out that being vegan by itself is a big step, but you have to be on the healthy side of vegan. If I just have samosas and fried food and processed food and white bread, I'm not going to be healthy. The simple rule of thumb is to go closer to nature, like even orange is better than orange juice. Chapati is better than brown bread because bread is processed. Brown bread is better than white bread. Most interestingly though, heart attacks and diabetes type 2 are completely entirely preventable. They actually did not occur in human race. And more interestingly, they are reversible. So excellent nutrition reverses a lot of things. Now, I wanted to go into a few more things on this very important page because they come up, which is that if our people talk about osteoporosis, we need to take milk for calcium. Now, our body, being very much like a vegan animal, actually has an alkaline base. For example, our tongue is alkaline like all vegan animals. All non-vegetarian animals have acidic tongues. By the way, we sip our water like all vegetarian animals. Non-veg animals take their tongue out to drink. So what happens is when we take calcium through milk, milk is acidic. All plants are alkaline. So our body thinks, it's a foreign object, and it tries to neutralize it, the acid that is. So it takes out calcium from your bones along with good things like vitamin B6, and it comes out of your urine, and there's a net deficit. So osteoporosis happens to be most common in USA, Scandinavia, and India, the largest milk-consuming countries. But if you take calcium through plant sources like greens, till, almonds, it's absorbed very well. Same thing with protein. One common question is, how do I get my protein? And that's one of the biggest myths. Very, very few people have heard of, met somebody with the protein deficiencies. It's a very rare disease called kwashiorkor in sub-Saharan Africa, largely where they don't have enough to eat, period. And the building blocks of protein is amino acids, which is in all plants, 3 to 7%, and that's all we need. By the way, there's the best known medical study, epistemological, meaning statistically significant, is China study. When Zhou Enlai, when we were growing up, you will recall his name, the Chinese premium got cancer, he had 880 million Chinese surveyed. That's a very huge number as to what they eat and what kind of health issues they have. It turned out to be researchers' gold mine. Oxford and Cornell universities were involved because in rural parts of China, there are vast sectors of populations that live a certain way, do not move their entire lives, have a certain gene pool and eat a certain way. And just 1,000 or a few thousand miles away, same gene pool, same lifestyle, same work habits, but eat a different kind of food. And the very, very amazing find was in the parts where they eat meat and fish, like the West, the cancer and heart attack rates were very similar to the West. In other parts of China, where they were not strictly vegan like me, but they used it for sprinkling with tiny amounts, the heart attack and cancer rates was 0, not quarter or 10% even. So Bill Clinton became aware of this study, and through the author Colin Campbell from Cornell met Calvin Esselstyn and reversed his heart issues. He's gone back to his high school weight. So this is just an example. I could spend a whole hour, but I'd like to very briefly introduce one Nandini Gulati. Can you just get up, please? Thank you. She's with Sharan. She's based in Delhi. She conducts all these seminars and workshops on healthy vegan living. Amazing. And just a few years back, she was non-vegetarian, much heavier. She has a brochure outside. And also, Sonal, can you please stand up? Here's an example of technology coming in handy. I remember I told you to use technology with Bill Clinton, fake meats, maybe Eskimos. Sonal makes some vegan ice creams in India. In the US, the technology has evolved so much that there are several dozen forms of vegan products, including ice cream, fake meats, and desserts. Manhattan, which is close to where I'm based, has 45 exclusive vegan restaurants, just like the Shuddh Shakahari restaurant. So a critical tipping point has been reached there. It may be a minority, but a tipping point has been reached. So,
Give these ladies the hand.
the other thing is, it's a fact of life. You know, there are people in this room who are 85, 90 plus, who are very, very healthy. If I have their physical and mental health at that age, I'll consider myself lucky. And so, but that does not take away from our basic thesis. Like, most smokers do not get cancer. But I think now there's a clearly established correlation between smoking and cancer. Similarly, you cannot just say a non-smoker is healthier than a smoker. There are so many other things, but it's a big contributory cause if you smoke. So, but anyway, ultimately my reason is moral, but health is definitely there. The other very interesting thing is, even if you go to so-called extreme situations, let's say you say, I'm going to prefer organic food and not even harm insects and pests. If to the extent that's feasible, guess what? It actually tastes better, and it's also better for your health. So nature has, I think, some secret in there we have to fully tap. And the benefits of organic vegan farming, I think, can help prevent a lot of things in many, many dimensions, whether it's health, livelihood, or natural resources. Here are some excellent reference things. The first one is the World Peace Diet. It's a very detailed book by a PhD from Berkeley. Will Tuttle goes into a lot of different dimensions of what I've said and new things. The second one is World Peace Agenda by Satya Prakash Agarwal. I have to especially thank him because he's the one who initially thought of me presenting to this at a conference organized by the World Association of Vedic Studies and helped draft the first presentation. He has written several books on the concept of Lok Sangra and Good for All, won awards from former President Shankar Dayal Sharma. Then Dr. Neil Bernard, PCRM.org, you can Google them, Physician Committee for Responsible Medicine. They have several thousand doctor members, amazing research in US with concrete results. Calvin Ethelstein, this is the one I mentioned to. He became Bill Clinton's personal doctor. Heart disease is actually reversible. Gurudev Chitrabhanu's wife, Pramoda, she wrote the last booklet there. So in summary, I would like to say, actually the key thing to me is, one may think, at least for me, oh, well, I'm going to be a vegan, it's going to sacrifice something. Actually, it has turned out to be the other way around. I'm enjoying food more, my health is better. I think it's harmonious with ecology, with world peace, with spiritual dimension. So God did not, if there is one, or spiritual, or whatever you want to call it, we were not designed that if we do vegan, we hurt ourselves in other ways. I think we have the power to give a gift of peace, hope, and celebration to our non-human animals, our children, and ourselves. So now I've finished it in 45 minutes as you wanted. So now we can have questions and answers.
You didn't talk about eggs in this presentation.
I'm sorry, what?
Just 1 minute. Can you hold on a minute? Thank you, Anil, for a scintillating lecture. I really enjoyed it, and I'm sure all of us here enjoyed it. It was quite extraordinary in this depth of knowledge and sarcasm, and also the philosophical ingredients of vegetarianism, and non-vegetarian, and veganism, and the peace, and so many authors that you quoted. Now, there would be a small session for questions, answers, or observations. I won't say only ask questions. You want to say something, but be brief, because we will have to vacate this room after in a little while. So we can't have very lengthy discussions, but you're certainly welcome to make your points or ask any questions. Yes?
You didn't talk about eggs.
Sorry?
Eggs.
No, I bring that up. Basically, all animal products, meat.
Kindly identify yourself when you ask the question.
Meat,
Can just a minute. Who's speaking, please?
meat, fish, and eggs. They're all out.
What's your good name?
I am Dr. Jain.
Yes.
I want to supplement what you said. That the violence is...
What he said?
Yes,
Yeah.
Dr. Narang has said. Narang has said.
Dr. Narang has said.
Yes.
Please make it clear.
And this is
because there are
that
two
the
different
violence
things.
is related to the food intake. there are certain brain chemical substances released after taking food. Like suppose somebody takes curd in the summers, he will have a sleeping effect. If takes the tea and coffee, he has a stimulating effect. So food does affect the human behavior.
Right.
Similarly, non-vegetarian food inculcates violence in the mind. This is supplementation.
Yes, this is very good. These are all fantastic points.
Mike, please.
Thanks for bringing it up. Thanks for bringing it up. In fact, there's a very interesting book by some Indian professors. It's a book I never imagined I would come across. It has mathematical equations how the pain, extreme pain animals feel or any living being feel when they're being slaughtered, and mathematically how it vibrates through to the very end, including when we eat. But yes.
Yeah, just 1 minute. So, Anil, you will be answering each question immediately after that. That might be better because
correct.
Otherwise you collect all. That's two ways of doing it.
May I interrupt to ask the name of the book?
Just a minute, sorry.
The name of the book that you just mentioned.
Yeah, I will email it to you.
Okay.
It's
No,
it's
1 second.
Chaos.
Do
Something.
you want to respond to the first speaker? Anything you want to say? I mean, I could not quite follow the link.
The logic behind eating eggs, that's what I understood. Because quoting those.
Yeah, you can get up and speak. It's okay.
No, what did the first speaker said something which clearly was not getting linked with what you talk. But if you find that there is anything which you like to respond to, you may say so now.
No, I think it was addressed through the very broad questions of extreme situation or different ways, but I don't agree at all with eating eggs or anything.
Achha.
There are different dimensions
Okay.
with metals and other things.
Okay. Now the third person who wants to speak.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Yeah, just a minute.
Please.
Please introduce yourself.
Correlation between violence
Sorry,
and vegetarianism.
kindly introduce yourself. Give him a mic. Say it again.
I'll use that. You see this correlation.
You are Mr. So-and-so. Introduction. Right.
I am Vijay Singh.
Yeah.
The correlation between violence and vegetarianism. You see, there are animals which are violent and they are carnivorous and they kill. They are very affectionate towards their own progeny.
Yeah.
So also human beings, they are very cruel people who kill, who destroy, and yet they have got their own affections. So is it universal, that violence is a universal phenomena, or is it isolated in sections?
Right. Could you answer that?
Yeah, I would think that if, as human beings, if we are more evolved and more thinking and intelligent and hopefully going in the right direction, even though in a zigzag manner spiritually, that we can become better and not copy any lower animals in whatever is natural for them. So our minds are very different, so it impacts us much more.
Yeah, kindly. Can you pass on the, just a minute.
More than they really
Still,
seem.
yeah.
Right.
Kindly identify yourself.
Hello, I'm Rukmini Shekhar. I mean, most of us in this room would, I think, wholeheartedly agree with you. However, I think that vegetarians and vegans in India at this point of time are fighting a very hard battle against government policies. You have the good old animal husbandry wing of the government, which in the old days gave a family a cow or a goat to sustain itself. Now it is big, huge export business. India exports the maximum amount of milk and beef to the world. Now, fighting against, or when it comes to battery cages, when it comes to, there's a whole spectrum of government policy which is totally against the vegetarian or vegan lifestyle. And we have come, what the West is now addressing is something we are looking at right now. So for most of us, the vegan awareness campaigns in schools or colleges or lectures like this is minuscule compared to the opposition that we face with government policies, trade, commerce, and economics. So how can the global vegan movement or the vegetarian movement influence Indian government to take some serious cognizance when we have all these thinkers, Gandhi, Mahabharat, etc., stemming from this soil. How can we influence government to take better policy decisions on this?
That is a very good question, and I purposely brought it out because it is hard to get a government to do it. I think ultimately you can only do what you do. All great movements, all great thinkers, they have started with a single person, a single group, and then caught on, maybe slowly, maybe over time. So, but these are issues which may require a multifaceted approach. Maybe a government, especially if it's elected and the prime minister or somebody is not a vegetarian, maybe they can at least accommodate the viewpoint. Have a vegan minister. They can also have the leather minister, but at least promote that thought. I'm just thinking aloud. But it's a very good questions. But ultimately, of course, if the people are made aware and educate themselves and others, it can have a whole. It will take time.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Identify yourself, please.
मेरा नाम रोशन अग्रवाल है. ओके, मैं एक कुछ बताना ही चाहता हूँ, मतलब इस टॉपिक से रिलेटेड.
हाँ बोलिए.
आप लोगों को पता होगा झांसी की रानी. झांसी की रानी में झांसी में एक लॉ था, जिस लॉ के तहत कोई गाय को मारता था तो उसे वो झांसी की रानी फांसी पे चढ़ा देती थी. तो अंग्रेजों ने, अभी भी आप नेट पे सर्च करेंगे, काउ स्लॉटर पे झांसी में लॉ था. तो अंग्रेजों ने उसे पागल घोषित कर दिया था कि वो औरत पागल है, इसलिए उसके ऊपर लड़ाई छिड़ी जा रही है, उससे राज हत्याया जा रहा है, क्योंकि वो किसी की कोई बंदा गाय को भी मार देता था तो उसे वो फांसी पे चढ़ा देती थी. तो भारत में पहले ज़माने में इस तरीके के लॉ हुआ करते थे. आज भारत में इस तरीके के लॉ हैं जो काउ स्लॉटर्स को प्रमोट करते हैं, ना कि उस तरीके के लॉ हैं जो भारत की प्रथम स्वतंत्रता संग्राम जिसने किया था उस तरीके के लॉ हैं. ठीक है, तो बस ये बताना था कि कभी आप लोगों को कोई पॉलिसी मेकर मिले तो उसे भी आप लोग बताएं.
This goes to a very good question. Rukmini said these are all ways.
Can I just?
These are all ways we have to.
May I just
Yeah,
add
please.
Just half a point to this.
Yeah, please.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yes, so fine.
You see, we are doing this campaign called the Plastic Cow Campaign. This basically addresses the issue of plastic bags in cows, and they die terrible deaths. I have some videos and some brochures here. Now, the underlying reason for these cows wandering around in the first place is because of all the illegal dairies and the fact that these cows are not given food and they're eating trash and walking around, and that's the milk that we all drink. So essentially the vegan issue is linked to a whole lot of other issues, including municipal callousness. And so if anyone's interested, I've got some videos and some brochures. They're there in my bag. So after the lecture, I can pass on some to you and some to Mr. Narayan as well. So it's...
Has everybody, including you, written down your emails and contacts?
On this,
There's a sheet outside.
I will do that.
Just make sure you do, and just put a note.
Yeah, just to tell you that we have filed a case in the Supreme Court as an animal rights issue. We have filed this as an animal rights issue, and we have entered the plastic debate via the animal rights issue. It's just information.
Very good.
So you want to respond to his observations?
I think he was just making an added comment, and I totally agree with him. What she said, it's a challenging but important thing.
Cow slaughter.
Cow slaughter, and please, Nandini.
Okay, yeah.
Cows are floating around, you said illegal dairies, is also because of our insatiable thirst for milk. So in the first place, it's not the slaughter that is an issue, it's also why they are brought into the world in an extremely violent manner, where a cow is raped and artificially inseminated and made to give birth within 9 months. And it's producing milk for its baby, and even then she is impregnated again, so that the lactation continues, because a cow is a female mammal, and just like any other mammal, it's really giving milk because it has given birth, so it's giving it for its baby. So it's just, these kind of practices. A cow which should live to 16 to 18 years lives only about 8 years. So this whole concept of holy cow is, I think, it's not something that we are really treating as holy. So why are we giving birth to it in the first place artificially? Is because of insatiable thirst for milk, which, as you've seen, we don't even need for health reasons. So that was my point. What do you think about what I've just said?
No, we're very good. These are all points I'd love to bring out if I had 2 hours. In India, in Bombay, in India, in Bombay, the male cows, the baby cows, are just tied and led to starve to death because there's no need for them. In the US, the male baby cows are veal. And the baby female cow never really drinks the milk of his mother. And the mother, what it normally would produce over 16 years, produces 4 and is killed for meat and leather. So, there's oxytocin injections given in India to promote higher production of milk. In the US, there's bleeding from the udders where they're constantly machined. It's horrible. So,
okay. The young lady here, yeah.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Dr. Radhika Mittal, and I'm essentially, I look at how I'm responding a little bit to your bit, and then I'm also going to add something. I look at how public perception of food and environment is generated. So from the point of view of policy, when you're saying how do we get our policymakers to be more active, I think the first thing we need to recognize is that we do not have support of a mainstream or even the advertising media. And the reason is because there's a lack of awareness there, because there's a lot of corporatization in what gets reported. And it's just sort of a warning call, because we should not simply believe everything we read in the newspapers or in the magazines, because one day red meat is going to be good, the other day it's going to be bad. So there is, and very little of that perception is actually centered around hardcore scientific research. That's, so perhaps policy, that nexus of policy, science, public sphere, media needs to be bridged by, of course, activism and some sort of campaigning, which is, again, as Mr. Narang said, have a vegan minister, put that into the public policy. The other thing I'd like to just say is that the IPCC second working group report was just released, and there's been stuff in the newspapers which goes on about food production and basically how we're going to have wars, but also that there simply won't be enough food, and food is a problem of access. So, I find that we need to, if there's no other imperative, there's an environmental imperative, because our children, whoever, if they come into the world at all, are simply not going to have the kind of food that we've had the luxury of growing up on. So, and I think in the US, these debates have gotten very strong at some level, but in India, as Nandini said, or who said just now, that we have this dividing line. So vegetarians would say, well, I don't eat meat, so at least I'm superior in that way because, I'm not having meat. But milk, eggs, all of this is coming into urban consciousness at a huge level, and there's nothing really to restrict that, and we need to ask what happens to the dairy cows, which of course we know they get exported. So that's just a few points in terms of environmental imperative.
Yes. In fact, all those points are very complementary and have value added. The environmental impact actually also cannot be underestimated. The presentations I have, which I've read of others, there's scientific data to show a lot of things. Like, for example, the total harm to environment from animal food products is more than transportation combined. This is globally.
Yes, sir, it's 51%. Livestock emissions are almost 51% of greenhouse gas emissions.
Right.
Yeah. And may I just add another small thing? There are studies being done in countries like Sweden, which are talking about the low environmental impact of plant-based diets. And it's just that in India, which we have a rich tradition of using this sort of food, we seem to be forgetting it as fast as it's being adopted in other parts of the world, cold climates where they grew up eating meat and dairy.
Mr. Bagay?
I want to say something.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. I have 2 points. I have 2 points. Number one, it's very clear that as India grows, develops and becomes prosperous, the amount of non-vegetarianism is bound to go up, not only in the cities, but also in the rural areas. My second point is that all this emphasis on cow slaughter, much as I think highly of Rani Ki Jhansi, I think it's gross discrimination against all other animals, including buffaloes. The problem in India is of discrimination, and one of the worst discriminations is in favor of the cow. I think we have to be kind to all animals. Thank you.
Yeah, they're absolutely. In fact, there are dog lovers in India. To extend that, there are dog lovers in India who are non-vegetarian. In Korea, they eat dogs. Yes.
Yeah, 1 minute. Anil.
Yes.
Chitra Narayan. What I'd like to know is that with populations growing at the rate they are, and the preservation of the environment, including plant life, trees, would supply a lot of what vegans would like to consume. Would there be, and if you eliminate milk and meat, non-vegetarian food, and eggs, would there be sufficient vegetables or plants to sustain the population? Number one, that's one. Two, I want to be clear about, you see, the postulate is compassion to all creatures. Okay. If someone was to ask you that if I can use an animal product without harming in any way that particular creature, then one would have to do research into each product and whether it is going to harm the animal. For example, an egg. I'm not very clear about what harm it does to a hen who lays an egg. Now, will it damage her in any way if we eat that egg?
Yeah, okay, let me address it.
Now, the two questions I've asked.
Yeah, first one is actually that in the production of meat, fish, eggs, or dairy products, the amount of vegetables that are grown to feed those animals is a multiple of what humans consume. So it was actually the other way around. We will need far fewer resources. In fact, deforestation is going on because a lot of land, arable land, is being used for raising meat. Secondly, on your question of eggs specifically, there's a lot of cruelty involved to the chickens in the modern day and age. They are battery cages. They hardly see the light. They hardly move around. If anyone wants to add a sentence or two, please go ahead, because, yeah.
My name is Khushbu Gupta. I work with World Society for the Protection of Animals on humane and sustainable agriculture issues. I go to dairy farms. I go to dairy farmers, especially to the recently coming large commercial dairies in India. Basically, what I see, and it really pains to look at, that a lot of agricultural land has been diverted to build large-sized dairy farms where 500,000, 2,000 of animals have been confined. Farmers who were earlier growing wheat, rice, and other grains for human consumption are now growing the crops and barsim which they can feed to the animals. So your question about and your concern about whether there will be enough food for people to have, then yes, definitely, I think there will be more than enough. And just another thing that about the hens which are confined. Hens which are confined in battery cages, the egg-laying hen which is confined in battery cages does not get any opportunity to express its natural behavior while being in that cage. So the hen, its entire life, what it is doing is pecking and taking out an anda. So that's what it's doing whole life. The male chicks, they're of no use to the industry and are grinded as soon as they're born. So that's what goes into the hens as well. And also there are few members from the Delhi Vegans group. So if there are people from Delhi and would like to know more about veganism and stay connected, so they can definitely contact us. Thank you.
You have the contact number?
Yeah, I do. And make sure you put your name, email, and if you want to put any identifier that you are from this group, any identifier that you are from this group or that, that'll be nice also.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to the discussion, and thank you very much. My name is Abby Macefield. I've worked as a food security policy expert for 25 years, but more importantly, been a vegan for 25 years, and I relate totally to your experience. And I would like to raise a few issues which haven't come up.
Can you identify your name also?
Abby Macefield, yeah.
Right, go ahead.
So, I mean, I think this question about the eggs is a really good one, because people who are not in the sphere of vegan discussion, they have these basic questions, and it's very important that vegans understand the best way to communicate this and to respond to these basic questions, because many of us have been there at that stage, and we've come through that by learning and talking to other people. So I think, you know, if we look at the chicken, you're consuming an egg, but you have to think of the scale and the culture and the norms of consuming that. And then you have to look at the whole world and how many chickens that involves and how much pain that involves to produce these things in tiny spaces. The antibiotics that are used, the chemicals that are used, the food safety issues which we're seeing happen more and more. You have to look at the huge quantities of grain that are being used to feed these, taken away from hungry people and affecting the price inflation that we see in the world and the food crisis that we have. Over half, well over half of the grain in the world being fed to animals. And then you look at the terrible impact on human beings. And you know, all of my family is busy dying of cancer at a time when it's very well known that this is because of meat and dairy, and these are huge factors in that. So I think, you know, there's so many reasons. When you stand back and you look at the big picture, it's very important to be aware of how at so many levels it interconnects. I think the antibiotics argument is very important, and the food safety issues, and that needs to be brought out more. But in general, relating to this question of how do we connect this spiritual, personal decision to live a healthier life with the broader politics, as Gandhi showed, is an absolutely essential link. And I don't see enough coming from the vegan movement at the moment that's targeting, that's expert, that's using scarce resources in a very sensible way to get these messages into the political agenda, because otherwise the world's going down the drain very, very quickly. One of the ways we see this, for example, is recent reports about global warming and the impact that's likely to have on global food availability, completely sidesteps the fact that the majority of the food in the world is used for animal consumption at the moment. And it ends up by leading towards a panic about the availability of food, which heads then towards boosting the genetic modification of food and corporate interests in that. And we have to step in and stop that pattern, because what we're seeing with genetic modification, tragically, and I'd like to see more discussion on this, is actually the blurring now between the plant and the animal world. We don't even know what we're eating anymore, whether we're eating plant or animal, and we're denied the choice. So, yeah, a few points. And the other thing, just to end, what hope veganism, so long as people find it so difficult to imagine bringing their children up as vegans? And I think we really need to target parents, particularly mothers, who have the responsibility they shouldn't have, but they do in reality. And we have to start making the case that it begins with how you bring your child up, and that it is possible to bring children up as vegans. This one.
Mr. Chairman, I raised my hand about 7 times. I didn't get my chance. So
Come to the next speaker. I'm talking about the
Last speaker. We'll come to the next speaker. I'm commenting on what she said.
No, sir, I'm only mentioning one thing to your Majesty, that I was the first to raise my hand and speak,
I'm sorry,
and you did not pay any heed.
Probably I missed
so
it.
I am thankful. Now my library will be closed. I have to pick up my bags.
No, okay.
But I just wanted to mention one very important question.
Yeah.
This is, whatever we have been discussing, it's absolute conflict with the followers of one of the greatest faiths in the world. And I come from one of the states in this country which considers it a sin if an animal is not slaughtered on their auspicious day. And it has got a linkage with their prophet, who is supposed to have sacrificed an animal by magic and saved his follower's son. I'm sure you understood the faith I'm referring to.
Yeah.
And we have to address that point also.
Okay, what's your...
And my question is, that question is not being addressed.
Right.
How do we combat the faiths or explain this thing to the faiths that say that it is a sin not to sacrifice an animal? And that faith is the second largest faith in the world today.
Okay. What's your good name?
I'm Umkar Razdan. I hail from Kashmir. And I'm fighting corruption in the country for the present.
Good. Now,
there also we have failed.
Now, Anil, would you like to respond to this? No, this question, now let me see. I mean, as far as the Indian Humanist Union is concerned, or even as Anil Narang is concerned, we are not asking anybody to change their faith, but we may not agree with everything that every faith has, and we have a right to disagree. He has a right to disagree. He is trying to promote something which may not be in keeping with your faith, but he has a right to speak. You can oppose it if you like, but you can't say that because it is part of your faith, you cannot even discuss it. But that will be a very sort of difficult situation if the religious people don't want to even discuss what they are saying. They say because it is of faith, therefore it must be accepted. No, we don't accept that. The Indian Humanist Union certainly does not accept that anything is beyond question. We believe in questioning, we believe in discussion, we believe in convincing each other. I hope you agree with that. If you convince us, well and good. If you are not convinced, say that why you are not convinced. Don't quote the argument that because it is laid down your faith, therefore it should not even be discussed. Yes, we are discussing something which might go against a particular faith. Yes, we admit that, but we believe in that. What's wrong with it?
Fortunately, I am a Hindu and I don't eat cows.
That doesn't matter. That matter. You spoke on behalf of a particular religion which you're trying to, you want to. Answer is enough. My answer is enough. We don't believe in shutting out views because of religious faith of one particular reason. Is that clear?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah.
Sir, please hold back for the answer. If we rightly assume the name of the faith you are referring to, we have many practitioners of those faith living within Delhi NCR. In fact, one of them rightfully did address one of the international religious conferences some time back within Delhi, which me and few other people sitting here were attending as well. And he did very systematically and in an elaborate fashion did bring out how Islam, if I may quote the religion,
why not?
or say Quran, specifically asks human beings to actually take care of the so-called non-human animals. And nowhere does Quran say that it's imperative for a practicing Muslim to eat meat. And please, sir, before you leave, please remember that the so-called practice of the sacrifice got started with the person there having the ability to actually sacrifice his own son. So today, if any Muslim actually wants to sacrifice his own son, has that willingness to do that, then so be it. It was just at that final magic moment that so-called the conversion of the son got replaced by that animal. It's just a myth, perhaps, or maybe it wasn't a myth. But then we are not to really comment upon that. But yeah, I mean, we believe in ahimsa, we believe in compassion, and yeah, no faith disagrees with it. Thank you. I'm Sonal. We represent White Cup Dairy Free, India's first vegan ice creams, and we are proud to be associated with it. And one more point: we stand for no dairies. We do not stand for just not illegal dairies. And yes, I'm a vegan mother too. Yeah. Cheers.
Okay. Is that all right? Let me add before you go that she said that Islam is actually not in favor of killing animals as you are trying to say. But what I'm saying is that even if it was, we will still discuss it and we'll question it. Thank you.
So Sonal, that's it.
Where can we get your vegan ice cream?
From tomorrow onward, the Saket Select City Walk Mall.
Where?
She has her thing outside, and do you have any questions? She has a name.
Right. Anybody else? You already spoken once, I think. So let us wait at anybody else. Now, just on it. Since I mean this function was not originally. Kindly don't speak in the middle. Kindly silence. This function was not originally sponsored by the IHU. Only I was made chairman as an arrangement between IIC and Anil. But later on, for whatever reason, it is supposed to be a function in collaboration with the IHU. The IHU has taken certain steps towards protection of human rights, not only at the international level, but particularly at our level. Mr. Veer Naran, who is the chairman of the IHU, and I asked him to speak today because of his function also, but he, as usual, was very reluctant to come forward. But may I request you, Veer, to just mention what you have proposed as a resolution on animal rights in the International Union, and what is the stage of that? Because it's an allied subject.
Well, animal rights is very much an allied subject. And in fact, if I may say so, the animal whose rights we are discussing includes us. Yes. Because even our rights are being violated by the manner in which we are. We are a very sort of self-centered species, and we are playing havoc with the environment. But beyond that, it's very difficult to see the West, the humanism of the West as it is, adopting a vegetarian or vegan
Not vegan,
attitude.
but just animal rights.
Yeah, animal rights includes, for example, the whole farming industry, the raising of cows, for example, the diverting corn to the animal feed and the animal feed to the manner in which the cows are treated, the chicken, they are all sort of they are pumped with hormones and antibiotics and so on. In the sense that I am afraid the animal rights have been ignored. My suggestion to the General Assembly in the last Congress, they said it would be discussed in the next one. It was completely forgotten. So I'm afraid animal rights are not getting anywhere. And there are philosophers in the West like Roger Scruton and others who deny that animals have any rights at all. According to them, only persons, that is, rational beings have rights. And this goes back to Descartes and Kant and so on. And Kant said that whereas animals have no rights, but the way men treat animals finally results in the way they treat themselves, each other. So that is why it is wrong to be cruel to animals. In other words, in an indirect sense, not that they have any rights. So this is a very a deeply philosophical question, and in the West, philosophy is developed in a way where they will continue to deny rights to animals, I suspect.
Okay. Now,
I just want to add.
But I'll add here that I think this matter will have to be. We intend to pursue this question of animal rights. And when we say animal rights, we mean, as you said, non-human animals. When we are keeping men up separate, injustice to men or human beings, that's a separate issue. When we talk of animal rights, we are talking about, you said, as the rights of the non-human animals. So that we intend to pursue in the international human and ethical. There is a lot of things which some of the Western humanists do not fully understand. And the Indian humanist has managed to change the attitudes of the IHU in some respects. We hope we'll bring about a certain change in this respect also in the IHU. Thank you.
I just want to add something.
Yeah, one thing. May I please add to this? It's great that you're taking such an active role in the International Humanist Association. I wonder if you've thought of bringing in a cognitive science or a neuroscientific perspective, because it is in the Western countries now that a lot of research has been done on cognitive science, on behaviorism, and how animals not only feel pain, but they're able to cognize, they're able to think, they have intelligent behavior patterns and mechanisms, which sets them at a much higher level of consciousness than we had ever thought of. And there is a lot of support for this coming out from cognitive scientists around the world, some of whom I am in touch with, who are doing this type of research. And I think if we want to make that kind of case stronger, we need to bring in this to actually prove a point. I mean, right from chickens to actually being able to cognize and feel for their loved ones, understand how to develop patterns. And we notice it, in India there's such a Vedic ecology at least had such a strong connection with this. You notice even when an ant is walking along, an ant knows which path to take. If you come in the way of the ants, they will change their path. They are they're smarter than we give them credit for. So I'm just
okay. Thank you. Now, one second. Okay. If there is anything which you or your group wants to send which pertains to human rights, animal rights, do send it to us. Send it to Anil. Anil has now joined the Indian Human Union also. He'll pass it on to us.
Sir, I am at this point.
Sir, can I just add half a line to what
Anil wanted to say something.
Just one thing before you continue. I want to draw a subtle distinction between the choice of words, whether it's animal rights. It's one thing to say rights, and another thing is to say, let's be very cruel to them. For example, one is going by in a car. Maybe you cannot help a homeless person, but it's another thing to stop the car and beat him up and eat him up. So one is the rights of that homeless person, the other is being very cruel to the homeless person. And we have been going to that extreme, you know.
No, the rights includes not being cruel.
No, I'm afraid, could you please...
just to gather a little... Sorry.
I'm afraid I could not quite understand what Anil was saying about the homeless person being eaten up.
What I was trying to say is, within the rights world, there are shades of cruelty or compassion. So if you ignore it, that's one thing, if you ignore the homeless person. But it's another thing to actually torture the homeless person and eat him. And that's what we are doing to animals. So sometimes people try to say animal rights, oh well, you're equating it to everything human, but you know, you don't have to be cruel to them at least, at the minimum.
No.
Yeah.
Sir, can I just add half a line to what you say?
Animal rights includes not being cruel to them, not ignoring them when it is required. Compassion should be extended to them also.
Correct.
So it's an all-inclusive word. Sorry,
Yes, I was saying that many people here have sort of looked at the West as being in the forefront of the non-ahimsa way of life.
Non-ahimsa.
I'm sorry, the ahimsa way of life, not the ahimsa way of life. And we take pride in our civilization as being more that way. But unfortunately, the modern animal rights movement is actually progressing more rapidly in the West, and we have actually regressed in our treatment of animals altogether. And we need to look at how if you ask me, the animal rights movement and the child rights movement are very similar in that both are constituencies which cannot speak for themselves or organize themselves, and therefore they need adult humans to speak for them. And the bottom line of the animal rights movement should be what Richard Ryder has called painism and speciesism. He coined these two words. And if anything, any living being experiences pain, then that's enough to deem them as worthy of protection. Pain is the bottom line. And if we are causing pain to any living being, then that's enough to address this as a rights issue.
That's what we agree with that. Now, can we avoid a long discussion, especially those who have already spoken?
Is it very necessary? Then could you make it very brief?
I want to supplement a point, that's all. No comments. I want to inform that since the animal rights issue started, now throughout in India, now the animal dissection has been stopped right from 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, BSc, MSc, everywhere. So this was also a part of the animal rights mission which you people have been professing. So what
has been stopped?
Dissection. In education.
That's been stopped.
Including in all medical colleges, it has been stopped. So what I am saying, that we must not carry a negative message. We all now, I see a large number of people who are for the cause of animal rights, and let us hope that we achieve this.
Quite right.
And we must unite.
We should be in
and
touch with each other.
That a day will come. Then your mission will be achieved.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I think there's time for us to wind up soon, and in the end, I will like to again thank Anil for a very interesting as well as very perceptive lecture, you might say. So for his young age, he's doing rather well philosophically. That is one. Second, I want to thank you for... Could you kindly maintain silence? And I also thank the participants, and some of them asked very good, very sort of questions which are relevant and which are not easy to deal with, and it is good that we had a discussion on them. On the question of pain, I'll only add here, because that, yes, plants also feel pain. But there is that, I think, which Anil mentioned in his own words, but I will put it, there's a hierarchy in evolution. If you kill your own species, that is one. That is cannibalism. If you kill someone nearer to you, that is one. If you kill something else, that's another one. So you can't compare everything. If see, that is something more of an ethical loss involved. If you kill your own people, your own species even, and very few animals in the world kill their own species. That kind of ethics is built into them. The second thing is about the pain also. Pain also has degrees. Plants have pains, but the degree of pain which plants have cannot be compared with the degree of pains that the other more evolved human have. So thank you very much all once again, and let us continue to be in touch with each other for various good causes. Thank you.
If anyone wishes to get some information on this plastic cow campaign that we're doing, please come and take some brochures and videos from me.